And Jacob went out from Beersheba and went toward Haran. And he came upon a certain place and stayed there all night because the sun was set. And he took one of the stones of the place and put it for his pillow and laid himself down in that place. And he dreamed, and behold, a ladder was set up on the earth, and the top of it reached to heaven. And behold, angels of God were ascending and descending on it. And behold, the Lord stood above it and said, I am the Lord, the God of Abraham your father, and the God of Isaac. The land whereon you lie, to you will I give it, and to your seed. And your seed shall be as the dust of the earth, and you shall spread abroad to the west and to the east, and to the north and to the south. And in you and your seed shall all the families of the earth be blessed. And behold, I am with you, and will keep you wherever you go, and will bring you again into this land. For I will not leave you until I have done what I have spoken to you of. And Jacob awakened out of his sleep, and he said, Surely the Lord is present in this place, and I knew it not. And he was afraid and said, How fearful is this place! And this is none other but the house of God, and this is the gate of heaven. And Jacob rose up early in the morning, and took the stone that he had put for his pillow, and set it for a pillar, and poured oil upon the top of it. And he called the name of that place Bethel, but Luz was the name of that city in former times. And Jacob made a vow, saying, If God will be with me, and will keep me on this way which I am going, and will give me bread to eat, and clothing to put on, and I come again in peace to my father's house, then shall the Lord be my God. And this stone which I have set for a pillar shall be God's house, and of all that you will give me, I will surely give the 10th to you. Then Jacob lifted up his feet and went to the land of the children of the east. And he looked, and behold, there was a well in the field, and lo, there were 3 flocks of sheep lying by it. For out of that well they watered the flocks, and the stone upon the mouth of the well was great. And there all the flocks were wont to assemble, and they rolled then the stone from the mouth of the well, and watered the sheep. And they put the stone again upon the mouth of the well in its place. And Jacob said to them, Whence are you? And they said, Of Haran are we. And he said to them, Know you Laban the son of Nahor? And they said, We know him. And he said to them, Is he well? And they said, He is well, and behold, Rachel his daughter comes with the sheep. And he said, Lo, the day is yet long. It is not time that the cattle should be driven home. Water you the sheep, and go and feed them. And they said, We cannot until all the flocks be gathered together. Then do they roll the stone from the mouth of the well, and we water the sheep. And while he was yet speaking with them, Rachel came with her father's sheep, for she was a shepherdess. And it came to pass, when Jacob saw Rachel, the daughter of Laban his mother's brother, and the sheep of Laban his mother's brother, that Jacob went near and rolled the stone from the mouth of the well, and watered the flock of Laban his mother's brother. And Jacob kissed Rachel, and lifted up his voice, and wept. And Jacob told Rachel that he was her father's brother, and that he was Rebekah's son. And she ran and told her father. And it came to pass, when Laban heard the tidings of Jacob his sister's son, that he ran to meet him, and embraced him, and kissed him, and brought him to his house. And he told Laban all these things. And Laban said to him, Surely you are my bone and my flesh. And he stayed with him the space of a month. And Laban then said to Jacob, Because you are my brother, should you therefore serve me for nothing? Tell me, what shall your wages be? And Laban had 2 daughters. The name of the elder was Leah, and the name of the younger was Rachel. And the eyes of Leah were tender, but Rachel was of beautiful form and beautiful appearance. And Jacob loved Rachel, and he said, I will serve you 7 years for Rachel, your younger daughter. And Laban said, It is better that I give her to you than I should give her to another man. Abide with me. And Jacob served for Rachel 7 years, and they seemed to him but a few days, through the love he had to her. And Jacob said to Laban, Give me my wife, for my days are fulfilled, that I may go into her. And Laban gathered together all the men of the place and made a feast. And it came to pass in the evening that he took Leah his daughter and brought her to him, and he went into her. And Laban gave to his daughter Leah Zilpah his maid for a handmaid. And it came to pass that in the morning, behold, it was Leah. And he said to Laban, What is this you have done to me? Did I not serve with you for Rachel? Why then have you deceived me? And Laban said, It is not done so in our place to give in marriage the younger before the firstborn. Fulfill the week of this, and we will give you this one also for the service which you shall serve with me, yet 7 other years. And Jacob did so, and fulfilled the week of the first, and he gave him Rachel his daughter for a wife. And Laban gave to Rachel his daughter Bilhah his handmaid to be her maid. And he went in also to Rachel, and he loved also Rachel more than Leah, and served with him yet another 7 years. And when the Lord saw that Leah was hated, he opened her womb, but Rachel was barren. And Leah conceived and bore a son, and she called his name Reuben. For she said, Surely the Lord has looked upon my affliction, because now my husband will love me. And she conceived again and bore a son, and she said, Because the Lord heard that I was hated, he has given me this one also. And she called his name Simeon. And she conceived again and bore a son, and she said, Now this time will my husband be joined to me, because I have borne him 3 sons. Therefore was his name called Levi. And she conceived again and bore a son, and she said, This time will I praise the Lord. Therefore she called his name Judah, and she left off bearing. Genesis 30. And when Rachel saw that she bore Jacob no children, Rachel envied her sister, and she said to Jacob, Give me children, and if not, I die. And Jacob's anger was kindled against Rachel, and he said, Am I in God's stead? Who has withheld from you the fruit of the womb? And she said, Behold, here is my maid, Bilhah. Go into her, and she shall bear upon my knees, that I may also have children by her. And she gave him Bilhah, her handmaid, for a wife. And Jacob went into her. And Bilhah conceived and bore Jacob a son. And Rachel said, God has judged me, and has also heard my voice, and has given me a son. Therefore she called his name Dan. And Bilhah, Rachel's maid, conceived again, and bore Jacob a second son. And Rachel said, Contest of God have I contended with my sister. I have also prevailed. And she called his name Naphtali. When Leah now saw that she had left off bearing, she took Zilpah her maid, and gave her to Jacob for a wife. And Zilpah, Leah's maid, bore Jacob a son. And Leah said, Good luck has come. And she called his name Gad. And Zilpah, Leah's maid, bore a second son to Jacob. And Leah said, To my happiness, for the daughters will call me blessed. And she called his name Asher. And Reuben went in the days of the wheat harvest, and found mandrakes in the field. And he brought them to Leah his mother. And Rachel said to Leah, Give me, I pray you, some of your son's mandrakes. And she said to her, Is it not enough that you have taken my husband? And would you also take away my son's mandrakes? And Rachel said, Therefore shall he be with you tonight for your son's mandrakes. And Jacob came out of the field in the evening, and Leah went out to meet him and said, To me you must come in, for surely I have obtained you as a reward with my son's mandrakes. And he lay with her that night. And God listened to Leah, and she conceived and bore Jacob a 5th son. And Leah said, God has given me my reward, because I have given my maid to my husband. And she called his name Issachar. And Leah conceived again, and she bore a 6th son to Jacob. And Leah said, Now God has endowed me with a good dowry. Now will my husband dwell with me, because I have borne him 6 sons. And she called his name Zebulun. And afterward she bore a daughter, and she called her name Dinah. And God remembered Rachel, and God listened to her, and opened her womb. And she conceived and bore a son, and she said, God has taken away my reproach. And she called his name Joseph, saying, The Lord shall add to me another son. And it came to pass, when Rachel had borne Joseph, that Jacob said to Laban, "Send me away, that I may go to my own place and to my country. Give me my wives and my children, for whom I have served you, and let me go, for you know my servant with which I have served you." And Laban said to him, "If I could but find favor in your eyes, I have learned by experience that the Lord has blessed me for your sake." And he said, "Appoint me your wages, and I will give them." And he said to him, "You know how I have served you, and what your cattle has become with me. For it was little which you had before I came, and now it is increased into a multitude. And the Lord has blessed you since my coming. And now, when shall I provide also for my own house?" And he said, "What shall I give you?" And Jacob said, "You shall not give me the least. If you will do this thing for me, I will again feed and keep your flock. I will pass through all the flock today, removing from there every speckled and spotted lamb, and every brown lamb among the sheep, and whatever is spotted and speckled among the goats, and such shall be after this my reward. And my righteousness shall testify for me in the time to come, when it shall come with my reward before your face. Every one that is not speckled and spotted among the goats, and brown among the sheep, that shall be counted stolen with me." And Laban said, "Well, let it be according to your word." And he removed on that day the he-goats that were ring-streaked and spotted, and all the she-goats that were speckled and spotted, every one that had some white on it, and all the brown among the sheep, and gave them to the hands of his sons. And he put the space of 3 days' journey between himself and Jacob fed the flocks of Laban that were left. And Jacob took himself rods of green poplar, and of the hazel and chestnut tree, and peeled thereon white streaks, laying bare the white which was on the rods. And he set the rods which he had peeled in the gutters in the watering troughs, where the flocks came to drink, just before the flocks, and where they conceived when they came to drink. And the flocks conceived before the rods, and brought forth ring-streaked, speckled, and spotted. And these lambs did Jacob separate, and set the faces of the flocks toward the ring-streaked, and whatever was brown in the flock of Laban. And he put his own flocks by themselves, and put them not with Laban's cattle. And it came to pass, whenever the stronger cattle did conceive, that Jacob laid the rods before the eyes of the cattle in the gutters, that they might conceive among the rods. But when the cattle were feeble, he put them not in, so the feebler belonged to Laban, and the stronger to Jacob. And the man increased exceedingly, and he had many flocks, and maidservants, and men servants, and camels, and donkeys. Genesis 31. And he heard the words of Laban's sons, saying, "Jacob has taken away all that was our father's, and of that which was our father's he has gotten all his wealth." And Jacob beheld the countenance of Laban, and behold, it was not toward him as before. And the Lord said to Jacob, "Return to the land of your fathers and to your birthplace, and I will be with you." And Jacob sent and called Rachel and Leah to the field of his flock, and he said to them, "I see your father's countenance, that it is not toward me as before. But the God of my father has been with me, and you know well that with all my power I have served your father. And your father has deceived me and changed my wages 10 times. But God suffered him not to do me evil. If he said thus, 'The speckled shall be your wages,' then bore all the flocks speckled. And if he said thus, 'The ring-streaked shall be your reward,' then bore all the flocks ring-streaked. Thus God took away the cattle of your father and gave them to me. And it came to pass at the time that the flocks conceived, that I lifted up my eyes and saw in a dream, and behold, the rams which leaped upon the flocks were striped, speckled, and mottled. And an angel of God spoke to me in a dream and said, 'Jacob.' And I said, 'Here am I.' And he said, 'Lift up now your eyes and see, all the rams which leap upon the flocks are ring-streaked, speckled, and mottled, for I have seen all that Laban does to you. I am the God of Bethel, where you anointed a pillar, where you made to me a vow. Now arise, get you out from this land, and return to the land of your birth.' And Rachel and Leah answered and said to him, 'Is there yet any portion or inheritance for us in our father's house? Were we not counted of him as strangers? For he has sold us, and he has quite consumed also our money. For all the riches which God has taken from our father, that is ours and our children's. Now then, whatsoever God has said to you, do.' Then Jacob rose up and set his sons and his wives upon camels, and he led away all his cattle and all his goods which he had gotten, the cattle of his acquiring, which he had gotten in Padan Aram, to go to Isaac his father into the land of Canaan. And Laban was gone to shear his sheep, and Rachel stole the images that were her father's. And Jacob stole away unawares to Laban the Syrian, by not letting him know that he was going to flee. And he fled with all that he had, and he rose up and passed over the river, and set his face toward the Mount Gilead. And it was told to Laban on the third day that Jacob had fled. And he took his brethren with him, and pursued him after 7 days' journey. And he overtook him at the Mount of Gilead. And God came to Laban the Syrian in a dream of the night, and said to him, Take you heed that you speak not to Jacob either good or bad. Then Laban overtook Jacob. Now Jacob had pitched his tent on the mount, and Laban with his brethren pitched on the Mount of Gilead. And Laban said to Jacob, What have you done, that you have stolen away unawares to me, and led away my daughters as captives, taken with the sword? Why did you flee away secretly, and steal away from me? And why did you not tell me, that I might have sent you away with mirth, and with songs of tabret, and with harp? And why have you not suffered me to kiss my sons and my daughters? Now you have acted foolishly in doing so. It is in the power of my hand to do you hurt. But the God of your father spoke to me yesternight, saying, Take you heed that you speak not to Jacob either good or bad. And now you would needs be gone, because you greatly longed after your father's house. Yet why have you stolen my gods? And Jacob answered and said to Laban, Because I was afraid, for I said, Perhaps you would take by force your daughters from me. With whomsoever you find your gods, let him not live. Before our brethren, seek out what is yours with me, and take it to you. But Jacob knew not that Rachel had stolen them. And Laban went into the tent of Jacob, and into the tent of Leah, and into the tent of the 2 maidservants, but he found nothing. Then he went out of the tent of Leah, and entered into Rachel's tent. Now Rachel had taken the images, and she put them in the saddle cushion of her camel, and sat upon them. And Laban searched all the tent, and found nothing. And she said to her father, Let it not displease my lord that I cannot rise up before you, for the custom of women is upon me. And thus he searched, but found not the images. Now Jacob became wroth, and quarreled with Laban. And Jacob answered and said to Laban, What is my trespass? What is my sin, that you have so hotly pursued after me? Although you have searched all my goods, what have you found of all the articles of your household? Set it here before my brethren and your brethren, that they may judge between us both. These 20 years have I been with you. Your ewes and your she-goats have not cast their young, and the rams of your flock have I not eaten. That which was torn of beast I brought not to you. I had to bear the loss of it. Of my hand did you require it, whatever was stolen by day or stolen by night. Where was I in the day the heat consumed me, and the frost by night, and my sleep departed from my eyes? These 20 years have I been in your house. I have served you 14 years for your 2 daughters, and 6 years for your flocks, and you have changed my wages 10 times. Except the God of my father, the God of Abraham, and the fear of Isaac had been with me, surely you had now sent me away empty. My affliction and the labor of my hands God has seen and decided yesternight. And Laban answered and said to Jacob, The daughters are my daughters, and the children are my children, and the flocks are my flocks, and all that you see is mine. But as to my daughters, what can I do to them this day, or to their children whom they have borne? And now come you, let us make a covenant, I and you, and let it be for a witness between me and you. And Jacob took a stone and set it up for a pillar. And Jacob said to his brethren, Gather stones. And they took stones and made a heap, and they ate there upon the heap. And Laban called it Yagar Sahadutha, and Jacob called it Galid. And Laban said, This heap is a witness between me and you this day. Therefore called its name Galid. And Mitzpah, For he said, "The Lord shall watch between me and you when we are absent one from the other. If you should afflict my daughters, or if you should take other wives besides my daughters when there is no man with us, God is witness between me and you." And Laban said to Jacob, "Behold this heap, and behold this pillar, which I have cast up between me and you. Witness be this heap, and witness be this pillar, that I will not pass by this heap, and that you shall not pass to me by this heap and this pillar for evil. The God of Abraham and the God of Nahor shall judge between us, the God of their father." But Jacob swore by the fear of his father Isaac. Then Jacob slew some cattle upon the mount and called his brethren to eat bread. And they did eat bread and stayed all night on the mount. And early in the morning Laban rose up and kissed his sons and his daughters and blessed them. And Laban departed and returned to his own place. Genesis 32. And Jacob went on his way, and there met him the angels of God. And when Jacob saw them, he said, "This is a host of God." And he called the name of that place Machanaim. And Jacob sent messengers before him to Esau his brother to the land of Seir, the country of Edom. This completes Parashat Vayetze.